All right, welcome everyone to a new episode of the Roscoe's Wetsuit Neuro Podcast. I am your host, Toby Passman. On the show with me today, we have a special guest, Fatima Oliver. Fatima grew up as the only girl with five brothers. There was no princess in her house. Her mother was a single parent and tough as nails, sometimes to a fault. At the age of 2, she was recovering from burns on 25% of her body. By the age of 10, she was emphatically convinced pain and family was synonymous. Uh, these mentionables, alongside the death of a child, abandonment issues, physical abuse from a spouse, and an inherited blood disorder affecting her son, eventually sent her spiraling, but God. The entire journey birthed an inspirational memoir titled The Prescription is in the Dirt, now available in paperback and ebook version on Amazon.com. A self-published love that has gained incredible responses. Throughout her journey, she learned 3 key foundations that she believes she's meant to share. And that is something we're going to get into on the show today. So Fatima, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much. I'm so happy to be here. Thank you for the invitation.
Of course. So kind of just like walk me through, it sounds like just from the brief kind of bio that I read there, you definitely went through a lot in childhood, and kind of talk to me about like the process of kind of starting to deal with some of those issues, starting to like overcome those issues, like in terms of how you got to that, went through all that difficult stuff to eventually getting to where you are today in terms of being able to like share your story and empower people.
Well, I would definitely say that literally a life-size journey since I was 2 years old. So I really was introduced to pain and sadness and just heartache and sorrow from such a young age, and just carried that throughout my life, really as the norm. Being the only girl in a home full of boys and a tough mom, unfortunately, there wasn't a lot of room for emotions to be displayed. And so I learned to keep my emotions in, which to me was kind of the catalyst that got me having anxiety attacks and being unable to express my emotions in a healthy way. Um, Going through those type of situations, especially being burned to my body, I don't even remember that occurring, just knowing all my life this has been the case, and learning at such an early age the teasing and just the unfairness of life, even through a sexual abuse from a stepfather and physical abuse from another stepfather. It just, my life was planned out, if you want to say destined for failure. It really took me working through my life and picking up some horrible habits, this horrible decision-making skills, trying so bad to leave a tumultuous situation in my family, like in my home, and then going straight into a worse situation with a spouse, and really just getting to a place about a few years ago where I had to humble myself. I believe that help comes with humility, and had to get to a place where I really had to have I call it a come to Jesus moment. I really had to have a moment where I recognized and respected the fact that the way I had managed my life up to this point really sucked. I really wasn't doing a good job. And of course, there was a good amount that was to blame on my upbringing or my atmosphere and environment. But I also believe that to what you understand, you are held accountable. So there is that transitional period where my life, my destiny was up to me to fulfill, and the direction of my path in life was up to me. And so just really doing my best to come out of a self-victimization mindset, which is a trap. And a lot of people who have went through being a victim, it's so easy for them to get trapped in that mindset. And so just really trying to work through coming out of that mindset of self-victimization.
Right. It's interesting that you brought that up, because I was just going to take the conversation there. I was going to ask you kind of
Yeah.
when you started realizing, like, despite the fact that you had all of these really difficult circumstances, like when did you start realizing, like, oh, I'm not necessarily just a product of my environment. Like I actually
Yeah.
have, kind of free will to sort of change the life and go the direction that I want to go in the future.
Yeah, well, I've always heard it preached to me, and I've always had some type of a mentor around me that say you can do it, and you're the best, and all these things. However, I feel like it bounced off like Teflon. It just never it went inside me to really believe it. But I've always had those type of whispers, kind of mindset back in my subconscious, if you want to say. But it was just that greater conversation of I'm worthless, I can't do it, I'm a failure, nobody will want me, the burns on my feet will stop any man from loving me, and you don't know how to be around a man, you don't know how to be a good friend. All of these things were such greater, bigger conversations in my head. But it really came to a place where it was quieter. I had gotten the quote unquote success that I always said if I got it, then my mindset would change, I wouldn't be so sad. I had the family, I had the husband, and just basically kind of like my dream. If I had these things, then my life should be better. And so the sadness would go away if I get these things. Well, I got those things. And I realized that I was still in a funk. I realized that I was still sad and I still felt um, unworthy for what I had. And it was in that moment where I had to make a decision on, am I going to continue the rest of my life in this direction, or am I going to try to make a change? I knew that there was something that was wrong with me. I knew there was something broken inside me to not be happy with what I had been blessed with, but I really didn't know the direction to go to get the assistance. But I will say, at least I had that moment where it was like, I know I need help. Now let's explore how to get that help.
And it sounds like so you really kind of had that realization once you had sort of achieved all of these external sort of measures of success, maybe that you
Yeah.
had thought was going to bring you some sort of like internal peace, but then you sort of realized that that wasn't really the case. Is that kind of a accurate sort of summarization?
Yeah, absolutely. And the crazy thing is, a lot of us think that, right? We have this list of accomplishments that we need to meet in order to be successful, or really in order to be happy. And so I had my own list. I'm very solution driven or task oriented. So I had like a checklist. And when I realized that I had hit most of those checklists, but I'm still feeling unfulfilled, that's when it was really kind of like an inner game assessment of what is truly going on with me, and coupled with my faith, which has always been there. And for me, I'm a Christian, and so that's what I leaned on. And so just having that quiet time to meditate on what my Bible says that I am, even though I didn't buy into everything because of my state of mind, I knew that, okay, there are some things that I need to operate in the physical. Okay, miracles, they happen, but typically it's through people, right? Engagement with other people. So if I'm feeling sad, if I'm feeling like I want to end my life, because there were definite moments where I felt that because of an accumulation of all the things that have happened. I struggle with anxiety and depression. So if I don't want to keep thinking these things, at least one of the things that I can do to control my controllables is get medical assistance. And so I went and I got on medicine for clinical depression. And I stayed there for like 10 years. I stayed in a place where, okay, the medicine should fix it all, right? Because I did what I was supposed to do. I got medicine and I've been diagnosed. So I kind of got an excuse for being the way that I am, and that should fix it. And so it literally took me until my 40s. I'm in my late 40s now. And it really took me until the last few years ago where I realized that the medicine can't fix everything. And that it really was time for me I was like at a crossroad, and it was really time for me to make a decision on, do I want to start peeling back what the real problem is, or do I want to just keep medicating? And my son, he helped me come up with a nice revelation of thinking a band-aid. Do I want to put a band-aid on it? The only problem is the band-aid doesn't heal. It's the medicine that heals. And so that's when I needed to do a little bit more, take more effort into my soul healing, is how I look at it, beyond the medicine, but actually going to speak with someone.
And so what did you sort of like realize, I guess, like in terms of, once you sort of realized that, the medicine was maybe helping, but wasn't getting to like the core sort of root of the issue. Like what sort of stuff,
Issue.
what sort of stuff did you, what sort of stuff did you learn, I guess, like when you started examining like the
Yeah, for sure. It was one of those things where sometimes, well, there's a saying, be careful what you pray for, because I would constantly pray like God, I mean, I'm taking my medicine. I'm doing all these positive things. I even have positive affirmations all over my wall. But why am I not feeling better? And I really got to a place where I literally felt like I was losing my mind. I started to not recognize myself. And when I say that, I mean having anxiety attacks on my job, just crying for no reason. I couldn't even think of why I was crying, just crying, or pulling over on the side of the road in a parking lot and just sobbing because I was so sad, and I couldn't understand why I was so sad if I had quote unquote everything that I worked for, everything that I thought would make me happy. And it was in that moment of feeling like I had lost myself where I said, I really feel like I don't have a choice. For me, I was at such a grave place where it was like either get some help or I'm going to run right through that intersection in this car and not stop. I had really gotten to that place, and no one would have known it because, by all accounts, on the outside looking in and on my social media platforms, everything was perfect, right? I had the perfect family, everything was perfect. But that is where I was at almost every day, 7 days, maybe 5 days out of the week. That was my thought. And so it was in that moment where I decided I'm going to go against my norm. I'm going to go against my culture of, you don't go and talk to people and you're not crazy. Nothing's wrong with you, Fatima. I'm going to go against all of that. And I'm going to schedule an appointment and I'm going to go and talk to somebody and see if they can help.
so it sounds like was that kind of like a big probably was like a big step, like you mentioned, like just kind of within your culture, but also just, I mean, I
Yeah.
think just overall, I mean, within kind of like Western society, it's
Yeah.
still kind of like taboo to talk sometimes about like mental health issues. And
Yeah.
I think COVID, just the amount of depression and anxiety
Yeah.
skyrocketing is probably, you know making it a little bit more, kind of comfortable or normal for people to talk about this
Yeah.
stuff. But what was that like? Was that kind of going against kind of everything? Like it sounds like it was a big step to
Yeah,
make this.
absolutely it was. I mean, my entire life, I always felt, and I've told people this my entire life, I don't remember a time besides, on at this current time, my entire life, I don't remember a time where I felt happy. I always felt like there was this cloud, how you see on the commercials with the cloud over the person when they're talking about depression. I felt like a cloud was always following me from when I can remember. I just don't ever remember feeling joy exuberating from the inside out. So this was a natural way of life for me. It was comfortable for me. And those moments when I felt in my young adulthood, or even as a teenager, when I would consider something is really wrong with me, I feel like I'm crazy. There would be people around me or my support system that would say, "Girl, there's nothing wrong with you. There's nothing wrong with you." And so I would convince myself, okay, well, there is nothing wrong with me. But this was something that I carried with me as an undercurrent throughout my life. And so actually making the decision to stop and go talk to someone was huge. And I'm so grateful that I understand that nobody should do life alone. We are not meant to do life alone. We are not meant to self-isolate away from community. And I'm so grateful that I understand that, because it was my community of people that are like-minded, women that were able to say, you know what, Fatima, I really do think that you need to speak with someone. And they didn't just say that to me and then leave me to my own vices to figure it out. They also encouraged me and said, when you have your first appointment, I want you to reach out to me and let me know how it went. And they celebrated that big step. So something that should feel so awkward, which it did in the beginning, but something that should feel, I guess you would normally expect it to feel kind of even shameful from what my background is. It was celebrated. It was celebrated by people who was my safe place to fall. Carolyn Leaf, you may have heard of her. She calls it freaking out in the love zone. These were people where I could freak out and be my horrible self in a horrible state, and they loved me through it. And it was those people that helped me get the courage to walk through the door when I was so nervous and scared to do it.
So it sounds kind of like that, sort of like unconditional, like, they loved you
Absolutely.
regardless of, what you may have been going through. like you kind of realized those were the people that were there for you when you actually needed
Yes.
them.
Yeah. And everybody needs that. I mean, I can't stress that enough as far as like having a safe place to fall. They were an extension of my safe place to fall. But that safe place to fall may not be your family. It may not be your parent. It may not be your spouse. It may have to be a therapist where you feel that you can say whatever, leave it all on the table, and know that it's not going to come back and be used against you in a weak moment, right? So we all need that space, and I'm so grateful to have that space in the people that I community with, do community with.
Right, right. So I guess kind of taking a step forward, kind of after having gone through that journey,
Yeah.
tell me about kind of the decision to write your book,
Okay.
and sort of what went into. So the book is called "The Prescription Is in the Dirt." Tell me about like what, I guess first the sort of meaning behind the title, and
Yes.
and what and sort of why you decided to write that.
Yes. So it really is the book, prescription is in the dirt is really an extension of my therapy. It was really, for the first time in my life, I had gotten to a place where I felt the freedom to speak about the horribleness that had happened in my childhood. I had never really spoke on it. Like I have done it as far as a checklist. Yeah, I've been through that. I've been through that. But as far as talking about the damage, the emotional damage, the trauma that comes with it after you survive something, I never dug that deep. And so the name, the prescription is in the dirt, means all that dirt, all those things that I shared with you briefly, but just the fact of I'm a burn victim, that I was abandoned by my father, that I lost a brother, that I lost a child, that I've been sexually, mentally, emotionally abused, I've been physically abused. All of these things is the dirt. And if you're not careful, that same dirt can bury you. And you will wind up living your life in a place where you turn around and say, how did I get here? And it's because you decided to survive, and congratulations, you survived it, but you never dealt with the trauma that was associated with surviving it. And so the book just walks through my life and my situations, that some of them, I didn't put everything in it, but walks through a great amount of the events that I've went through, the trauma that was associated, the baby steps that I took to walk through the process to get to a place of healing. And it's candid about there are some places where I'm still working through that healing process because I'm not superwoman, although my kids think I am. But I still have everyday situations that I have to encounter. But it's through the identity that I was able to find and going through this process that helps me in my future. That helps me get through my day to day now. And it's a new space for me that I'm living in right now. It's a pretty awesome space that I'm living in right now. And it's new. And it's weird sometimes because I'm so used to the gloom and the sadness and the uncertainty and the feeling of lack of work. I'm so used to that. So this is such a new space for me. I'm excited about it, but I'm still learning. I'm still going through a journey myself. But the book basically goes through all of that. And I hope that it helps people who have also gone through similar experiences, who have maybe not gotten to a place where they feel that they can speak their truth, they feel like there's no audience for them to speak it to, that they can at least feel that they're not alone, that I've lived it, and that I've been able to come out on the other side. The scars are there. I have my battle wounds, but I take pride in that now and not feel ashamed.
So I want to focus on what you just said right there. So you feel pride in it and not shame. Was that kind of
Yeah.
like the big, like sort of getting to that space, like over
Yes.
the course of like therapy? Was that like kind of the sort of mindset change?
Yeah.
Because it was like,
Absolutely.
I mean, because you can't change the past, you can't reverse all of those kind of traumatic things that you've been through. Like that's a part of you, but at the same time, it sounds like you sort of change your thinking, and just I mean, I guess the core, I don't know if changing your thinking really does it justice. You kind of changed, I guess, the meaning of what
Yeah.
those experiences were to you.
Yeah, I would say that the experience was still the experience. I don't think that part will change, but it's the purpose that I'm using it for. And in that, I'm taking my power, right? In the beginning, I was a victim. I was a victim of the burns was an accident, but I was a victim to all of these things that I laid out. And to a large degree, most of my life was lived as a victim, feeling that kind of like, woe is me, and that how can I be anything good because of all this stuff that has happened to me. And I learned a way, yes, through processing, through therapy, through having a tribe of people that are like-minded and who are out to heal themselves as my support. I have accountability partners that when I feel low, that they can speak the truth and love to me. And just surrounding myself with the right type of support system, I've been able to say, I'm changing my future of how I approach these situations that have happened. So now I'm in a position to where I'm speaking on it, and I'm taking away the power that was held over me just from the thought of it happening. It wasn't even necessarily a person, it was just the thought that this happened to me. And that thought had so much power over what I thought that I could do in my life, that it held me back for a long time. I'm taking that back. And I'm taking that back by doing things like writing the book and speaking on it and trying to do my best that every time that I speak with somebody or am introduced to an audience, to tell the raw truth about the situation, but also explain that that doesn't have to be the end. And so for me, I've been able to experience such a greatness and such a I can't even find the right word, but it's awestruck when you hear somebody reach out and say, I read your book and I've experienced a similar situation, and I'm so grateful that you spoke on that because it is so true. And I feel like a seed has been planted in my life, and now I have the steps I have steps that I can use to work on my own healing, and I'm going to go ahead and make that call, or I'm going to go ahead and talk to the doctor or what have you. But just being able to be that person to give somebody else a helping hand, I mean, it's priceless. It's priceless.
Right. So tell me about, I guess, what have been the sort of feedback like from the book? Have a lot of
Yeah,
people like told you that, that it's like they've sort of, they relate to it, that they've been through
yeah,
similar experiences? What
yeah.
kind of things do people tell you?
Well, so as an example, there's a story that's shared about me being around in my 30s when it was questioned who my biological father was. Had no idea that was even a question. The one that was in my life wasn't necessarily the best anyway, but it was just shattering to think that my entire life, my grandparents, my lineage could be a lie. And working through that process of getting a DNA test and just that whole process that you have to go through, and the anger and the craziness of why am I just now finding out about this. Someone read the book and they had a similar situation with their father, and they were trying to resolve their relationship, and just reading it in the book, she reached out to me and just thanked me for sharing it, and for the first time expressed that that was a situation that she was in, and that it just made her feel good to know that she wasn't alone, that there were other people that were experiencing such heartache. And it didn't make it better, but it made it better for her to know that there were other people that had felt the same type of hurt or pain that she had felt.
Right. I know, think I know exactly what you mean. I was having a conversation with a friend a couple days ago about music, like musical artists. Like we had
Yeah,
mentioned, like Kid Cudi, and the rapper XXX Tentacion, who
yeah,
both speak about a lot of kind of hurt and pain and suffering kind of in their music.
yeah,
And but yet we were talking about, it's like, you don't necessarily, like, if you're really sad and feeling that same pain, it doesn't make it worse. It's like it makes you feel better because it's relatable. It's like it's
yes,
someone out there that also feels alone
yeah,
and in pain. So it's
yeah,
it's like a connection with someone that you probably never will meet, but
yeah.
still speaks to you.
Yeah, and it encourages you. There was I've had a couple women that have reached out about losing a child, and the fact that I went through that pain before, and the age difference in their child, my child, there may be an age gap, but just the pain is pretty similar. And it's something that you never get over, you just learn to live with. And so being able to share that in the book, again, when I was writing it, it was based on, it was an extension of therapy for me. It was me finding my voice and kind of symbolizing me standing on the rooftop and just screaming, I matter. That really was my moment, my I matter moment. But to be able to see it just transcending to other people is just amazing. And so I've had that feedback of thank you so much for sharing that story, because number one, I never knew that you went through that. And number two, I'm in that place right now, and it just gives me some hope. And so it's stories like that where it just I mean, you just have no words. How do you respond to that type of gratitude? The only thing I can do is be so grateful that God used what I thought was they were horrible situations. And I never in a million years thought that when I was crying in a parking lot, sobbing ugly tears, not the cute little tears, but the ugly snotty tears, when I was sitting there and saying, I don't know what's wrong with me and I don't know how to fix it and I feel like I'm losing my mind, I never would have thought that I would be on the other side of such turmoil saying, this is my story. I wrote a book and people are buying it and are telling me such promising and awesome, amazing story testimonies because they've read it. So, I mean, for me, that just says, that God is awesome.
Right. Do you sort of, this might come off as sort of a weird question, but I mean, do you view it like, not saying that you're grateful that obviously this terrible stuff happened to you, but do you view it as like sort of what didn't kill you sort of made you stronger, in the sense of like that you had all of these hardships to face, that you might not be the sort of like strong, powerful person you are today if you hadn't been through that sort of stuff?
I definitely believe, I believe that, again, just from my Christian beliefs, that God doesn't waste pain. Nothing is wasted. He's not a wasteful God. And so even if we're in the process, or even when I've went through these situations, and I didn't know, that it was going to be used. But I hope that it would be, and so I definitely believe that there's a part of the saying, if it doesn't kill you, it makes you stronger. I believe that, but I also believe that you have to be careful and you play a part in that making you stronger, because it can also make you harder. It can also make you bitter. It can make you resentful. It can make you turn away from the people that love you the most. It can make you isolate yourself. Pain can do so many things. And so in the process of it making you stronger, you have to make sure, I think we all have an individual responsibility to make sure that that pain doesn't make us stronger in a bad way, in a negative way, but that it helps us to be a platform for greatness and help us to be able to reach our hand back and help somebody else who goes through a similar situation. And that's one thing I know to be true, is that no matter what situation that I've been through, no matter how I would never understand why I had to go through it, I know without a shadow of a doubt that if somebody else is going through that hardship, I'm able to show natural compassion. I don't have to try to work it up. It's naturally going to be there. And I can speak to them in a way that someone who hasn't went through it could never speak to them. And that is priceless. That makes it worth it when you're in that position to be able to speak into somebody else's life. And that's what we've been able to do. My son, one of my children, has an inherited blood disease, and you spoke of that a little earlier. He has sickle cell disease. And when I found out he had sickle cell, he was a newborn, and it just devastated us. And I had no clue what it even meant, had no clue what we were even going to do. It took a couple of years, but we were able to find our way a bit and got him a great medical team. And we made a conscious decision, at least I made a conscious decision, and then I just made my family buy into it. But I made a conscious decision that we're going to find a way to turn this pain into purpose. And so we started putting ourselves out there to host blood drives. And so that has kind of been the thing that we do. We try to do yearly, wasn't able to do it because of COVID this year, but it's really one of those things that we do in our family. We support sickle cell foundations locally and on a national scale, but we also try to be a part of the solution. And I feel that anybody that's going through tragedy or that has experienced tragedy, don't waste that pain. Use it as a platform to get strength from it, to grow from it, whatever pieces you can get from it, and to help somebody out. I'm a definite believer that I win or I learn. There's no in between. I win or I learn.
And I guess sort of along those lines of I guess that's sort of like the mindset, the way you view these challenges. Like I was going to ask, as far as with some of the stuff, as far as like we talked about, like pain, not it could make you stronger in a more kind of negative way. Like,
Yeah.
what do you think? I guess just in your personal opinion, like what do you think shapes what like how pain like changes us? Because obviously there could be two people could experience like the same event,
Yeah.
the same disaster, the same war if they're a soldier, and they could come out of it with two completely different sort of they could shape them in two completely
Outcome.
different ways. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I definitely believe it's perspective. Perspective is a huge thing. It's just like you said, you can have we can have the same experience, but go through the same event, but have two different experiences. I really think it's your perspective and how you view life, how you view your contribution to life, or what matters most to you. All of those things shape perspective. And for me, I've just I've always been one that believes in servanthood. I've just been someone, and I guess I could say it's because of how I came up, and just the the harsh things that people have said to me, adults have said to me about my burned feet, and just experiencing just cruelty at such a young age. I just made a decision that I didn't want to be that type of a person. And so whenever I'm going through a situation, I naturally lean towards giving people the benefit of the doubt. When I think on my spirituality, I say I give God the benefit of the doubt. That whatever the situation is that I'm going through, there's gotta be something that I'm gonna get out of this. And I may not know all the answers. There are some things, my child passing away, I don't see what I still haven't gotten an answer on that. It's like, but I just feel like there's a time and place where you have to say, either the chair is going to hold you up or the chair is broken. It's either one or the other. Either you're going to have the faith or you're not. And so for me, I think everybody at one point in time, you got to make the decision what you're going to believe in and what you know to be true and what type of heart condition you want, what type of person you want to be. And then your decision making flows from that. Your character, it flows from your character. And I think all of that is a heart condition. It's tied to a heart condition. And so if we would say, if my tragedies have taught me anything, I think it's definitely taught me to be just compassionate towards other people, and just trying to give folks the benefit of the doubt, and trying to show grace, and with the prayer that somebody would do the same for me. And I've seen it. I've seen myself going through horrible situations, and somebody came and gave me a hug, or somebody came and bought me dinner, or just something they did not have to do, but it helped me in that moment. And so those are things that when somebody does something like that for you, those are things that you want to bottle up and just put a top on it so you can keep it forever. And realistically, we know that's not possible, but at least allow it to change your heart.
Right. Well said. Well, Fatima, like, where do you see yourself writing more books, or what do you see kind of going forward with what your work?
Yeah, well, it's definitely been spoken into me. I definitely see myself with at least one more in me. Somebody's spoken many more. I'm going to, I think, next year, tomorrow, I've been journaling and just reflecting on the different things I believe that I want to speak on in the new book. The prescription is in the dirt. That one was really focusing on these huge things that anybody could see would change a person's life, right? It's undoubtedly that they could change your life. But I think the other side of it is, but once you come through it, similar to what we talked about, now what, right? Now what do you do? Um, it was hard for me to see that I had some bad habits in relationships when my husband was beating my butt. I'm just saying, him beating my butt was kind of the bigger, bigger thing at that time. Okay, it was, me being selfish or needy, that was minute in comparison to him dragging me around the house. So, but once I left that relationship and I started being in other relationships, I realized that I had some codependency issues, that I had some needy, insecure issues. What's going on with me? But I couldn't see that until I came out of that type of a relationship. So the next book would definitely be talking about those type of things, as far as, where do you go from now? How do you come out of self-victimization? And so, and when I say that, I don't mean that no one has a right to feel that they've been wrong. I think more so of the self-righteous anger of how dare you do that to me, and I would never forgive you forever, and plus 10 years. And just walking through life, feeling a bit entitled because you've been a victim at one course of your life, and so you feel the world owes you, and you make decisions that sabotage your success, or you make decisions that are horrible decisions, but you keep doing it. And then when it turns out horrible, you say, look what the world did to me. That's self-victimization. And so that's what I think is important to dive into, to not just leave those huge situations, but also do some more internal reflection to see how you can be a better person, how you can be your better self.
Right. It almost reminds you like like I feel like what some people did, I don't know, kind of in college of like sort of like, you know, if there's a test that they're worried about, they may end up going out partying the night before, and then it's like then they have an excuse for why they failed that
Right,
test. So it's like they
right,
could have put in the effort, to actually do well on the test, but they already decided like, they didn't believe in themselves
yep,
or for whatever other reason.
absolutely.
But then they purposefully like instilled some kind of a excuse in
Yep,
order to have a reason that they
yeah.
didn't do well.
Absolutely, and it's a cycle, and it's not. It happens in every facet of life. Those type, because it's a character flaw. So it's not going to just happen in school. It's not going to just happen at work. It's going to happen at home. It's going to happen in your relationships with your children, with your husband. You'll have those type of fallback plans, and so I definitely was one of those people. And it was just so natural because I've been a victim for so long. So many horrible things just was happening to me and happening to me. It was easy for me to sit in that pity or sit in that kind of nothing good will ever happen to me. That it was easy for me to sit in that. And so it's the hard work of coming out of that. That's when you say, okay, that's when you really want to change your life. When you say, I see this in me, I know it's not right, and I need help changing it. And that's when you're really walking towards the steps of healing those things that's tucked deep inside of you. And
Awesome.
the prescription in the dirt, it does, give you some of those type of tools also, just through my opinion, my perspective, and my life's journey. And hopefully, when people read it, they'll be able to grab a hold of some tangible things inside the book and feel strength and the fortitude to be able to take it and run with it.
Awesome. Well, Fatima, we're coming up onto the end of the show, but if people do want to find out or get your book or find out more about your work, where would you direct them to?
Yes, well, the prescription is in the dirt. Here's my book right here. I'm proud of my little baby.
Awesome.
And it is on Amazon in ebook version and paperback. And you can also just reach out to me and chat with me. I would love to hear your story. I would love to hear and walk alongside you through your soul healing. And so you can find me on Facebook under Fatima Oliver, Instagram, Fatima Oliver 1975, LinkedIn, Fatima Oliver, and Reddit, you guessed it, Fatima Oliver. So you can definitely find me. Just put the name in, and I should pop up with all my family antics and hopefully something inspirational.
Awesome. Well, For those of you guys who enjoyed the show today, go ahead and like and subscribe to our YouTube channel. We're Roscoe's Wetsuit Neuro. And you can also find audio versions of the podcast available on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Stitcher. We're now on Amazon Podcasts, and just about anywhere else you can find audio podcasts. So go check us out. Fatima, again, thank you so much for coming on the show today. I really enjoyed our discussion.
Yes, me too. Thank you so much for inviting me, and I hope to speak with you again soon.
Absolutely.